Good morning. I am independent journalist Georgia Ford. As many of you know, I have been following the death of Amir Locke here in the city of Minneapolis. And what we've seen most recently is students standing up, using their voice as young people, demanding justice for Amir Locke. Yesterday at City Hall, dozens of students from North High School did a walkout, and they showed up at City Hall demanding a few things. Number one, that the officer who fatally shot Amir Locke be terminated from his position and charged criminally. Students also demanded that the interim police chief be terminated from her position as well, and that Mayor Frye resign. We heard some very powerful accounts from these students, some who have even experienced discrimination by police officers themselves or who have had a loved one. We heard students yesterday sharing their own concerns for little brothers or for their fathers who are going out into this community where we continuously see police killing Black men. It's something in Minneapolis that is a reality for Black residents and even our young people. I want you guys to take a listen from some of the comments we heard from folks yesterday.
There has been 3 deaths due to police brutality in Minnesota within the past 2 years. And this ain't something that's just natural. These things don't just happen. And the Black community should not just stop until there is justice. And I mean by any means necessary. This will not be pushed under the rug or looked over. Amir will have his justice. And me and my peers will make sure that. So at the end of the day, as a community, we need to come together and make our voice heard, because clearly they don't see us. Clearly we are not a priority in the community that we live in.
The same weekend, I lost a young man that I love, that I watched grow up. And so, community violence is one thing, police violence, it all hurts our community. It's all bad. And we're committed to doing the work.
I was sharing, that it's unfortunate that we've had so much activity in City Hall under these circumstances in terms of MPD killing another young Black man. For the past week and a half, we've had community leaders, mothers, students say, why are we still in this predicament? And I just have to say, as a council member, you're absolutely right. Leadership failed you. And that leadership is Mayor Frye. He has the sole authority over MPD. And for 2 years, we've seen promises be made that have went broken. We've seen lies be made to the public about reforms, and all of those things has led us to this moment. And it shows that there is so much pressure, and there is a responsibility, a necessary responsibility for leadership and the mayor to provide something different. And if not, it's clear the community is going to move forward with creating that different, either with them being here or not.
Now, the last 2 voices there were city councilors. The first voice we heard from was a student who was participating in that sit-in at City Hall yesterday. One thing I would like to point out, I found out from some of the city councilors that specific doors in City Hall were locked, doors to prevent students from entering closer to city council chambers or entering closer to where the mayor's office is located. And there was some disappointment by city councilors based on that decision that was made. They did not say who made that decision. I did ask them if they could find out if it was security that made that decision or if it was the mayor who made that decision, because I think it's important to note that preparations were made to prevent students from accessing a public building that they should have access to. They should be able to do a sit-in in front of the mayor's office and demand that he be held accountable, as we heard one of the city councilors mention there. But Ben and Brother Mac, this is a story that we have followed for the last week. And here we are 8 days following the fatal shooting of Amir Locke. There has been no movement from the mayor. There's been no movement from the interim police chief on whether or not this officer is going to be fired or charged criminally.
First of all, Sister Ford, again, I just, on behalf of a very grateful people, we are so grateful for your body of work and being on this story for as long as you've been on it and bringing it to us. One of the things that jumped out to me is when the sister, when they threw in there about black on black crime. See, that is nothing more than a deflection from you dealing with the issue of what is it that you are doing? What is it that you are doing? And Ben, that's why, that conversation you have about when you look at the data on crimes within communities. See, we shouldn't spend time talking about that. And I want these young people to just keep their eyes on the proverbial prize. And one of the, quickly again, from history, the thing that just jumped out to me is that whenever we saw a lot of progress being made in this country, it was usually made by young folks. And this takes me back to Birmingham in 1963 during the Children's Crusade of what these children were able to do is to bring all of the efforts of Bull Connor and Birmingham to an end because these children got involved. And to the young people of Minneapolis, I am so very proud of you again on behalf of a grateful nation. You are following in the legacy of what we do. And this, again, is part of why they don't want you to understand your history. This is the whole debate against critical race theory. They want to call it critical race theory, but they do not want us to be empowered with that of our ancestors and knowing that we can make that change and challenge America as we are doing. And for them to not only say we want that officer, but we want the chief of police and we want the mayor. I love the critical thinking that our young people are doing. God bless them all.
Yeah. Yeah. And Sister Ford, absolutely echoing everything that Dr. Mack just said. The politics of it all jumps out to me and is screaming at me because of the gaslighting we are getting around the George Floyd bill, which is dead on arrival, right? We have not gotten any real traction. There's been a lot of press conferences, a lot of symbolism. They painted streets with Black Lives Matter. They put it on helmets, but we haven't gotten policy yet. And what irks me in this story so much more is that now that they're talking about banning the no-knock warrants, didn't we have that conversation already? And why is it now that that was not followed when we had that? Or maybe I'm mistaken, but I just feel like this was a tragedy that did not have to happen if people had just done something after George Floyd was killed.
Absolutely.
Well, and I think it's important to distinguish when you say people had done something. I mean, Ben, absolutely. And what's also true is people did do something. There were so many community leaders. It was very fascinating and inspiring to see people activated in our community, people organizing, door knocking, getting signatures on bills like one specifically to ban no-knock warrants. Communities United Against Police Brutality, Jonathan McClellan with his organization, Zainab Muhammad, and so many others who did the legwork of drafting bills and getting signatures to support them. I was there when they delivered multiple boxes full of signatures to the governor's office. The governor would not meet with them. One of his aides sat there and spoke with them for probably about 20 to 30 minutes. But they delivered all of those signatures in support of, I believe it was 8 bills that would transform policing across the state of Minnesota. And when I talked to Michelle Gross about those bills, one of the things she says specifically about the no-knock warrant bill that was presented, she says that bill was watered down. She says, the bills that did pass, they got changed once they made it to lawmakers, and they got changed in a way where they could not be effective. And so here we are being reactionary again, instead of being proactive, right? Think about that. Had that bill have been passed in the way that constituents said that they wanted it, Amir Locke would still be here.
That's right.
Had lawmakers, had politicians who are in positions of power actually listen to the people, we would not be here, where you see thousands of young people, students who are leaving their classroom and they are pounding the pavement. They're saying no to their education today and saying yes to justice, yes to reform, yes to My Life Matters. Thousands. And not just Black students. These are Indigenous and white and Asian students who walked out earlier this week and walked from Central High School to the governor's mansion, again, demanding that on a state level, not just on a city level in the city of Minneapolis, but across the state of Minnesota, that he do something to help protect their lives. But the only thing that we've heard from the governor at this point is that he has authorized the use of the military. He has authorized the National Guard in the state of Minnesota. And in his statement to the press, he didn't even mention Amir Locke's name. He said 2 days after Amir Locke was fatally shot by police that he was activating the authorization of military, or the National Guard rather, in light of the ongoing federal trial that's happening for the other 3 officers who are charged with violating George Floyd's civil rights. And so I think, you know, these small nuances, the small thing of not even mentioning Amir Locke's name, I feel is dismissive of the larger systemic issue that's not just happening in the city of Minneapolis, but that we know is happening all across America.
That's right.
And Georgia, you know, I want to be sure, because, you know, that we say, when you say they're being reactionary, clearly what you just laid out is the beauty of where we are evolving to in this change, in that after George Floyd, it's not that we relaxed and said, okay, we're about to get justice. After the trial of Chauvin, it's not that we relaxed and said, okay, things are going to get better. Right. But what you were describing is that this community still had the foresight to see the obstacles and the tools that would be in the way that would lead to another situation like this, and they proactively did it. So when we're saying reactionary, I think what you're saying, and help me if I'm wrong here, you're saying that the lawmakers, those powers that be, are being reactionary.
That's right.
And this is what I love about what we are now learning from history, is that once, and Georgia, I've heard you say this many, many times before, whenever we make progress, they amp up their efforts to be more suppressive. And normally they're successful in that because we let our foot off of the gas, off the pedal of making America a more perfect society. But yet the young folks in Minnesota and Minneapolis, they saw these things going. And even though they saw the progress, they still saw the other obstacles and kept that going. So for them to organize and take to the governor's office and take to these lawmakers solutions for these other issues that would continue to lead to this, and then they do nothing but water it down. I am so grateful for what they are doing of keeping pressure going. God bless them. God bless them. And shame on the governor. Shame on the really the state of Minnesota, because when you take a look at it, the same way we were talking about the death of our brother who was incarcerated in the Department of
Sherrill.
Elder Sherrill, correct. So all of these folks in power are just a sham. Now you want to call a set of lawmaking individuals a swamp. Clearly, that's what we are seeing, and I'm so grateful to you, Georgia, to see that footage of you on the streets with these young brothers and sisters, organizing, not just being out there being chaotic, but being strategic in what they are doing. That is so incredibly powerful, and keep the hammer down on the mayor, on the chief of police, and on the governor, and make sure that when it's election time, no need to deal with the status quo. Let your voice be heard again and again